I want to turn to the debt ceiling crisis, how they've made all of us afraid of this looming scenario where what's going to happen if we raise the debt limit? Have we ever done that before? Many, many times, over 70 times since 1960. Can you talk a little bit about just the debt limit crisis and how you see it?
Well, sure. I see it as a crisis of its own making, right? It's political theater, but this time it's gotten to the point that, people are starting to, I think, take very seriously the possibility that you might well have enough people in Congress who think that this is, actually some sort of innocent or benign game that you can just refuse to raise the debt limit and nothing terribly bad will happen. I don't know how to explain it. We've been here before where it started to feel pretty serious, and I think in your intro you had some references to what did you show? A video clip that referenced downgrading and
Yeah,
that sort of
or
thing,
Angry
right?
Birds, the zombie,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, they'll downgrade the debt. Well, that happened before, okay? That happened after the housing bubble burst and the financial crisis. We, members of Congress, toyed around with the idea of not raising the debt ceiling limit in a timely enough fashion and risking a potential default. And Standard & Poor's downgraded U.S. Treasuries from a AAA rating, which is the highest that you can have, to one notch below. And yesterday I was teaching my graduate students here at Stony Brook, and I showed a video clip of some of the conversations that were going on around that time. And one of the people who spoke was Warren Buffett, who's of course a billionaire investor, Berkshire Hathaway, and so forth. And Warren Buffett was saying, how on earth is S&P downgrading U.S. Treasuries? This makes no sense whatsoever. And he said, these are his words, not mine. He said, the U.S. government can print money. What do they think? There's going to be a point at which, you have to make interest and principal payments to bondholders and you don't know where to get the money? I mean, he's saying this is insane. It's our currency. And he said, they asked him, do you disagree then with the downgrade? He said, of course. He said, here in Omaha, because Berkshire in Omaha, Nebraska, he said the U.S. Treasuries would have a quadruple A rating. Like there is no reason to question the validity of the U.S. government so-called debt, as we've referred to it. So lawmakers recognize this. I think they know it, Jessica. I don't think there's confusion about this. I think that they know that there's they always have the ability to pay. I heard one member of the House on television the other morning say he's a Republican from Arkansas. And he said, these were his exact words. He said, the debt ceiling is an anachronism financially. But, he said, but the reason I like it, and then he went on to explain that the reason he likes it is because it presents these moments where you can use the debt limit as leverage to try to extract the kinds of things you were just talking about, make people go try to find extra hours in order to get their SNAP benefits, make people jump through extra hoops and hurdles and get an opportunity maybe to take a whack at Social Security and Medicare or something else. Get your pound of flesh in exchange for doing something that you ought to not even have to do, because we shouldn't have the damn thing. We're one of maybe two countries in the world that even has a debt limit. So, but here we are.
It's almost as if constructing a sense of knowledge and a sense of truth that everybody, the public, kind of internalizes is a very effective political tool to win the kinds of things that those that want to privatize, that those that want some kind of market fundamentalist economy to function use very effectively. And speaking of that leverage, one of the things we hear over and over again is that if the GOP and many Democrats, quite frankly, will sometimes argue that if we're going to raise the debt ceiling, then we'll only do it because we will cut it from somewhere else. Social Security comes up all all the time here, right? They say it's going to go broke. It's, there's no way that it's going to stay solvent. And so we got to find a way to privatize it or cut funding. We actually have a quick clip. Mike, can we get that up of one that you've used as well many times?
So having personal retirement accounts is another way of making a future retiree benefits more secure for their retirement. And also, do you believe that personal retirement accounts as a component to a system of solvency does help improve solvency? Because when you have a personal retirement account policy, it's accompanied with a benefit offset. With that feature in place, do you believe that personal retirement accounts can help us achieve solvency for the system and make those future retiree benefits more secure?
Well, I wouldn't say that the pay-as-you-go benefits are insecure in the sense that there's nothing to prevent the federal government from creating as much money as it wants and paying it to somebody. The question is, how do you set up a system which assures that the real assets are created which those benefits are employed to purchase? So it's not a question of security. It's a question of the structure of a financial system which assures that the real resources are created for retirement as distinct from the cash. The cash itself is nice to have, but it's got to be in the context of the real resources being created at the time those benefits are paid, so that you can purchase real resources with the benefits, which of course are cash.
Mm-hmm.
So we're hearing about personal retirement accounts. Give us a sense of what's going on at that hearing in that video.
So it's funny because I also showed that clip in my class yesterday to my graduate students, and we deconstructed it. So I'm well equipped to do it again here. It's one of my favorites because Alan Greenspan. Just to be clear, so everybody who's watching knows that was Congressman Paul Ryan, right, who became Speaker of the House, and former Fed Chair Alan Greenspan. So you would think maybe Alan Greenspan would know a little something about the monetary system and where money comes from, given that he chaired the Federal Reserve. And it turns out he gave what I think was just about the perfect answer to this question. Not, however, the answer that Paul Ryan desperately wanted, because Ryan was trying to toss him a softball and just reel him in, right? You heard him use the term personal retirement accounts, at least 4 times I counted. And that's all he wanted. He wanted affirmation from Alan Greenspan that Social Security is in trouble, that it would make sense to move today gradually toward a system of personal retirement accounts. That's code for privatizing Social Security. And so don't you agree with me, Chairman Greenspan, that it's time to begin to take these steps? That's the question. And instead of agreeing, Alan Greenspan simply leans into the microphone and begins by taking off the table the question of affordability. Just takes it right off. He said, I wouldn't say that there's anything problematic with the system the way it's set up today. He said, and I quote, there's nothing to prevent the federal government from creating as much money as it wants and paying it to someone. Full stop. Okay. So what he's saying is you have benefits that are promised to future retirees, their dependents and the disabled. You're worried that you're not going to have the money to pay those benefits when they come due. Don't worry. This is Greenspan. Don't worry. The money is the easy part. The cash itself is the easy part. Then he goes on to say the really important part. He said, the question is, how do you set up a system which assures that the real assets are created, which those benefits are employed to purchase? Now, what does that mean? It means, how do you know that when you mail those checks out, or more appropriately, when you digitally credit people's accounts and they have their Social Security benefits, how do you know in 10, 20, 30 years' time that they're going to be able to turn around and spend that money into an economy that is productive enough, that is producing enough goods and services of the right mix, that they can buy things without having to compete with everyone else for a shrinking supply of real goods and services, therefore driving up, wait for it, inflation, because that is public enemy number one for every central banker. And so what Greenspan was really doing was just explaining to Paul Ryan that it's inflation you have to watch out for, not running out of money, not a trust fund that goes to zero. That's easy to deal with. It's inflation that we should be focused on.